In this video, we are going to use hindsight to consider Amazon's attitude towards unionization and towards the coronavirus pandemic. So let's start with watching this video that leaked last year. I think it was towards the end of the year last year. And it's an internal video that Amazon was showing to its workers.
Specifically designed to give you the tools that you need for success when it comes to labor organizing. During this course, we'll cover several important topics, such as our position on unions, associate rights, signs of employee disengagement, and how to identify, escalate, and address associate concerns. We are not anti-union, but we are not neutral either. We will boldly defend our direct relationship with associates as best for the associate, the business, and our shareholders. We do not believe unions are in the best interest of our customers, our shareholders, or most importantly, our associates. Our business model is built upon speed, innovation, and customer obsession, things that are generally not associated with unions. When we lose sight of those critical focus areas, we jeopardize everyone's job security. We don't badmouth unions in general, but we will speak openly with associates about unions, including any specific concerns about particular unions involved in organizing. And we share our preference for a direct working relationship frequently and boldly, even when no organizing activity has occurred. You will learn about the warning signs most commonly associated with early union organizing, as well as other warning signs that could indicate associate disengagement, vulnerability to organizing, or early organizing activity. While employees have the right to organize, we have a right and responsibility to share our position that a direct working relationship is better for the customer, the company, and the associate. In order to be able to do that effectively, it is critical that we recognize the early warning signs of potential organizing and escalate concerns promptly. If you see warning signs of potential organizing, notify your building HRM and GM site leader immediately. HRMs and GM site leaders should notify their assigned ER managers or ER principal immediately. The most obvious signs would include use of words associated with unions or union-led movements like living wage, or steward. Petitions or other concerted activity, such as an associate purporting to speak on behalf of his or her coworkers when raising concerns. Union graffiti, union t-shirts, hats, jackets, or other clothing, union flyers, and union visitors in or near the parking lot. Some signs are less obvious than finding the actual union flyer, but they can still indicate associate disengagement, which is itself a warning sign for potential organizing. Examples include associates who normally aren't connected to each other suddenly hanging out together, associates who were close suddenly stop speaking to each other, groups of associates scatter when approached by management, increased associate negativity, anger, or confrontation, unusual complaints or change in passion or detail around complaints, unusual interest in policies, benefits, employee lists, or other company information, or any other associate behavior that is out of character. For example, an associate who normally leaves promptly begins hanging out in the break room for an hour after work each day. In order to recognize warning signs, it is critical that you know what an associate's normal behavior looks like. Often, it is the change in behavior that is the warning sign, more than the actual behavior itself.
I don't know what you guys think of that video, but if you ask me, that is dystopian. Like, that is bad. And just to highlight some of the key points or some of the takeaways I had from there, I'll read off some of the quotes. It says, "We are not anti-union, but we are not neutral either." Okay, so they're claiming to be pro-union, and if you know anything about Amazon, you know they're not pro-union at all. Just by watching that video, you can tell that. Another other quote says, "We do not believe unions are in the best interest of our customers, our shareholders, or most importantly, our associates." Okay, so yeah, the last point doesn't make sense. They're not pro-union. That is propaganda. Then they say, "Our business model is built on speed, innovation, and customer obsession. When we lose sight of those critical focus areas, we jeopardize everyone's job security." Our business model is built on speed, innovation, and customer obsession, not workers' well-being or anything like that. And customer obsession is strange. That's a really strange term to use there. And then the warning signs thing, it says warning signs most commonly associated with early union organizing, as well as other warning signs that could indicate associate disengagement, vulnerability to organizing or other organizing activity. And then it basically says if you see warning signs of potential organizing, report to your fellow worker and they will be punished. And oh my goodness, I said the most obvious signs of potential organizing, and it said to look out for keywords and phrases such as living wage. Living wage. The video said if you hear another worker mention the words living wage, report them immediately. And to beware of petitions and union hats and other clothing. And some of the other signs they said were if employees start hanging out who you didn't see hang out before, report them. Or a change in passion or increase in complaints and interest in company policies and benefits. It's telling their workers to report people for those things. So if you're interested in the policies or protections and benefits that your work offers you, Amazon says you should be reported. Yeah, so I remember when that video first came out, and everyone understandably, a lot of people were saying it on social media, and a lot of people understandably were saying it seems like they're treating unionization, the spread of unionization, like it's the spread of a dangerous disease. And like it must be a priority that we have to stop the spread of unionization, which of course is the opposite of the truth. It is the opposite of the truth. Aside from just the fundamental idea that workers should have some sort of say in their work environment, which is the idea promoted by unionization, aside from that, the victories of the labor movement in the past are undeniable. We would still have child labor if it wasn't for unions and the labor movement. We wouldn't have any benefits at all. And in the US, we barely have any to begin with, but they've all been won by the labor movement. None of the benefits we have now were because CEOs like Jeff Bezos or corporations like Amazon just chose out of the goodness of their heart to give workers benefits. That's not how it happened, and that's not how it's going to happen. Unions are important, obviously. Yeah, and the U.S. is still the only country that doesn't or the only major country that doesn't guarantee paid sick leave. And I'm sure that would be another keyword that if you heard someone saying that at work, your Amazon administrators would say to report those people. Unbelievable. But yeah, all the benefits we have right now are because workers in the past have had the courage to stand up and get interested in the policies of their companies, and to protest and to go on strike and to unionize and fight for better working conditions because they deserve better. Amazon wholeheartedly is doing their best to put a stop to that, and they have been for a long time. Based on that video that Amazon was showing its employees, you genuinely would think, if that was all you had heard about unions, that unionizing was some dangerous disease, and that we need to make it a priority to stop the spread of unionization. Well, fast forward to now, just a few months later, and now we actually do have that seriously deadly and dangerous contagious disease that we should be making a priority to stop the spread of. So let's see how Amazon has responded to the coronavirus pandemic. I'm sure they're making videos just like that one, except even more serious, and telling workers to be extra careful and maybe report other workers who aren't abiding by safety guidelines, right? I'm sure that's what Amazon's doing. Here's this TechCrunch story from the other day. It says, New York Attorney General calls out Amazon's inadequate COVID-19 measures and chilling labor policies. The New York Attorney General's office reportedly sent a sternly worded letter to Amazon telling the company that the measures it has taken regarding the COVID-19 pandemic, quote, are so inadequate that they may violate several provisions of the Occupational Safety and Health Act, and firing outspoken workers sends, quote, a threatening message to other employees. The letter, not yet published but obtained by NPR, is only informational and does not amount to legal action, but the wording is strong enough to suggest that legal action may be the next step. And it quotes from the letter again, and it says, while we continue to investigate, the information so far available to us raises concerns that Amazon's health and safety measures taken in response to the COVID-19 pandemic are so inadequate that they may violate several provisions of the Occupational Safety and Health Act. It continues, these are precisely the concerns brought up by many warehouse workers over the last 2 months, including Chris Smalls, who was fired in March after protesting the conditions at the facility where he worked. And then it shows a tweet of New York Attorney General, I think her name's Letitia James, and she's saying, in this midst of a pandemic, Chris Smalls and his colleagues bravely protested the lack of precautions that Amazon employed to protect them from COVID-19. Then he was fired. I'm considering all legal options and calling on the NLRB to investigate. Amazon, this is disgraceful. Amazon says Smalls was not fired for riling up the workers, yet reportedly at a meeting attended by Jeff Bezos, the company's general counsel suggested making him, quote, the face of the entire union organizing movement before following with our usual talking points about worker safety. Yeah, and several other employees have also been fired. Smalls is not the only one that has happened to, and protests and walkouts are happening at Amazon warehouses across the country right now, because workers don't feel safe. They don't feel like Amazon has their best interest in mind at all, because Amazon almost certainly does not. This article also says Amazon routinely protests that it is a paragon when it comes to labor, but it is just as routinely contradicted by workers like Smalls, who have experienced the reality of working at its warehouses. So, just to give some more insight about the reality of working at its warehouses, Amazon warehouses, here is a CNBC report from earlier, like a week or so ago, talking with Amazon warehouse workers about their working conditions and how safe they feel.
But some are staging walkouts because they say Amazon isn't doing enough to keep them safe.
Going into work kind of scares me because we have a silent killer inside of our job, and Amazon is not taking the proper precautions to slow the spread or even stop the spread.
I have to do this. I can't not pay my bills and live my life. But then it was just really uneasy knowing that I could possibly contract COVID-19 while at work and either become ill or even possibly die from it.
Workers have that difficult choice of like, do I go to work or do I and risk it, or do I have no money, basically.
On a normal day, I love going to work. I wake up in such the greatest moods, but every time you walk out them doors right now, you're like, I survived another 10 hours and I don't feel sick.
Amazon also adjusted training and hiring events after images surfaced of crowded rooms full of prospective Amazon employees sitting close together in the middle of March. Concerned workers like Crippen and Ramsey have organized walkouts at their warehouses around the country.
We had about 40 employees walk out with us. They weren't taking our lives to be as important as the products we're sending. It was just realization that something needed to be done.
Close the warehouse for deep cleaning and pay all employees. We deserve that.
The building continues to operate while a subset of people are outside protesting. So how effective is that? And then what does Amazon do? Do they fire those people?
Staten Island warehouse worker Chris Smalls was fired hours after organizing a strike to demand better protections at his warehouse. New York Mayor Bill de Blasio ordered an investigation into the firing.
I felt it was the right thing to do. Unfortunately, it cost me my job, but I don't want to work for a company that doesn't take care of their people. And the Amazon has dropped the ball on that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what else there is really to say about that. I would really appreciate you guys letting me know what you think about it. I'm actually very curious. I would have to think the reasonable response to watching that would be, why is Amazon seemingly more afraid of the spread of unionization and labor movements than of the spread of coronavirus in its warehouses? And I would suppose to anyone else asking themselves that question that perhaps the answer is that the main goal, the only goal of corporations in capitalism, or always I guess, is to make money and to make profits. And that's why regulations are necessary and unions are necessary and sometimes strikes are necessary. Yeah, I mean, corporations are designed to make money, to make profits. That's what they do. And we have largely unregulated and underregulated capitalism right now. And that's why corporations can do these kinds of things, and why Amazon workers are protesting and doing walkouts across the country right now. And I don't think it's a stretch to say that Amazon's only goal is to make money. I don't. Because, and that guy said it, they're still selling all kinds of non-essential items. All kinds. You're telling me that a corporation that cared about its workers wouldn't just only continue selling the essential items? And or maybe shut the factories down. At least only sell essential items. And that's obviously just one example. There is an endless list of things and initiatives that Amazon could do to show that they care about the well-being of their workers. And firing people for being interested in unions or in company policies and demanding respect and a livable wage and paid sick leave during a global pandemic and any other form of just livable working conditions and first world working conditions is not the way to do that. It's pretty clear from Amazon's actions that at least their primary interest is not in protecting their employees. In all seriousness, try to imagine a world in which, instead of producing these jaw-dropping anti-union videos, and during a global pandemic, Amazon would actually be producing videos saying things like, yeah, maybe tell an administrator if you see someone not wearing a mask or not wearing gloves. That obviously that's not to say to fire that person, but you need to make sure people are doing that. And imagine they make a video saying, hey, if you see someone who's still working and they're vulnerable, and maybe they're going through a hard time, they're vulnerable to getting this disease, tell them, or say something to them, or say something to us, and we'll tell them, you know what, you get paid time off right now, because we care about our employees, and we don't want people getting sick, because then other people get sick, and even if they didn't, we just care about your well-being as folks who make this company run. It wouldn't run without the everyday workers, the factory workers. So imagine that world and then ask yourself why you have to imagine that and why it seems actually probably unimaginable. Just to think that, hey, this is one of the most profitable corporations in the entire world. It doesn't even pay taxes. Jeff Bezos is the richest man ever. And so maybe Amazon could be doing a bit better. And it's difficult to even imagine a world in which Amazon would be making appropriate videos and not jaw-dropping anti-union videos. And that seriously is dystopian. I also just want to say, because I know certain people are going to respond to what I was just saying with corporations are not people, so we can't expect them to have human qualities like compassion for their workers. And it's true, corporations like Amazon have totally removed the human element of their production and whatnot, except for in propaganda. But ask the workers, they are treated like robots. They're supposed to work like robots, and it's like they're being set up to be replaced by robots as soon as that's less expensive for the corporation. So yeah, corporations are not people, and we can't expect compassion out of corporations, but that's why we need to regulate them. And we aren't regulating them right now because they are considered people under the eyes of the law. In the Supreme Court Citizens United decision that says since corporations are technically people, they can spend unlimited amounts of campaign cash lobbying politicians, sell out politicians who are willing to sell their souls to these corporations for money. So they're not being regulated. So we don't have paid sick leave. So Amazon workers can be fired just for organizing for better working conditions during a global pandemic. So obviously the problem runs deep, and I would just say, yeah, corporations are not people, but under the eyes of the law and the Citizens United Supreme Court decision, they are. And that's why they're buying our Congress right now, and that's why they can do whatever the heck they want, including just firing people who demand basic respect and necessities and just basic safe working conditions. Those are obviously just my opinions, but like I said, I'm very curious what you guys think about that, so feel free to leave a comment or whatever, and I will leave the links to the stories I referenced in the description if you are interested.